Hey there, it's Shannon Graham Cornell from Better Home Organizing. And today we are talking about how to manage those little bits and pieces of our lives that seem to be central to running a home, but that really don't have an obvious place for where they should go. Other than, I don't want to forget about this, so it's going to sit on my kitchen counter or my dining room table or the first horizontal surface I get to when I get to my house. They're important pieces of paper, important pieces of information, important things you don't want to lose track of, but where to put them can be a real challenge. That's just not something obvious, it doesn't have an obvious place in the home. So a popular way of dealing with this, a popular concept, is this idea of a home command center. It's intended to be the brains of the home, a place where we can do things like drop keys, keep, gift cards, appointments, slips of paper, receipts that are still active, and it gives us a place to put these things and to better manage them rather than, as I said, the first horizontal surface, the dining room table, wherever it is they may land when they first come into your life. So we're going to talk about today the before we go and buy anything for a command center, we want to talk a little bit about some of the details behind it and considerations. And for those of you who are creative, this is probably one of the most fun areas to organize. Go look on Google or Pinterest and search for Home Command Center, and you will find a gazillion ideas for really cute ways of doing command centers in your house. So this is really a good project if you want to do something that is fairly inexpensive, but that you can also make look really pretty. So the first things, we're going to talk about the what, the who, the where, and the how of doing this. So the first thing is the what. And as always, we need to figure out what it is that we need command over. And we're going to make a list. I'm a big fan of list making. But again, it gets it out of your head. You can see it written down and you can start to think about it and not just have to be spending your energy trying to remember what it was that you were thinking of originally. And your list is going to be different from anybody else's list. It really just all depends on what is the stuff that you need to maintain in your life. It could be your keys, your wallet, your whatever handbag you have that's active, takeout menus, gift cards, coupons, papers that your kids bring home, invitations, meal plan, your master calendar, various office supplies, mail that needs to go out, mail that needs to be sorted, mail that needs to be sorted for you to deal with, for your spouse to deal with. A charging station, chore list. It could go on and on. Receipts that you don't want to lose track of because you haven't really decided if you're going to keep the item, so you don't want to throw it out yet, but it's not file worthy. That kind of stuff. So figure out what it is that you want to keep track of. And if you have trouble making a list of those things, again, Google Home Command Center, and you'll get ideas just from looking at the kinds of things that people have come up with, ways of managing. And you're like, oh yeah, I have those kinds of things. So make a list to figure out the what, and then figure out the who. And I would recommend delegating whatever you can on this. Who is responsible for maintaining that particular category in your command center? And you know what? It may be that it's all you. And if that's the case, then at least you know that. But this is actually can be a really easy way or fun way, low stress way to get your kids involved. If you've got kids and you want to teach them a little bit about organization, this could be a really good way of doing that. make one of your kids responsible for being the one to gather up the takeout menus and make sure they get back in their appropriate folder or their appropriate drawer. Or, have your kids, if they're of writing age, be responsible for writing their own activities on the master family calendar. Delegate whatever you can in this area, but that way you know who's responsible for maintaining those things. Maybe you can task one of your kids with being the one to go through before you go on a shopping trip and pull out all of the active coupons. As part of what they're helping with. So think about how can you delegate, if at all possible. And if it all turns out to be you, well then, so it is. But it's a good sort of low stress, not super critical thing that you can be using to teach your kids. And then, think about the where. So we've talked about the what, we talked about the who. Think about the where. So you want a command center to be in a central location in your home. So it could be a kitchen drawer. It could be a living room desk. It could be a wall in a central hallway. So you don't want it to be someplace that's out of the way. You don't want it to be someplace, in your basement or up in your master bedroom. You want it to be someplace that everybody can get to and that is in the middle of things so that it's easy. You want to be able to see it, particularly if you have it set up in such a way as it's, very visual and things are out in the open so you can see your reminders and you can see the master calendar. You also may need to consider, depending on the layout of your house, do you need it to be decentralized? So in my house, for example, I have what I would consider 3 command centers. I have the command center that's right inside the garage door where things like wallets and keys and active purses go. I have another command center that is in the home office that holds things like coupons, receipts that we don't want to lose track of just yet. And then I have a command center upstairs, which is for things like office supplies that we want to have readily available, index cards for lists that we're making when we figure out what are we wanting to accomplish on the weekend, a tray to hold, it's just a wooden tray that we got from IKEA, just to hold pieces of paper that we don't want to lose track of, but that aren't ready to be dealt with or thrown away. We have that upstairs as well. So in our case, because we've got our house is more vertical than horizontal, we've got 3 different command centers. So think about where would make sense. And then how, and this is the fun part. So do you want your command center to be open? Do you want it to be visible? So are you wanting things like bulletin boards and hanging files that go, or a hanging file organizer that goes on the wall? Do you want it to be out in the open where things are very visible? Or do you want it to be tucked away? So are you more of a inbox, tray, or drawer kind of person, or drawers in a desk? So think about how visually stimulating do you want your command center to be? Some people are want it very out in the open. Other people want it more tucked away. So think about your preferences there. And then take a look at your categories of the things. So back to the list of the what, take a look at the categories of things. And this is where you can head back out to Google and to Pinterest. And like I said, if you Google Home Command Center, you'll find all kinds of ideas. But people have figured out different ways of handling paper items. For example, you might have, a labeled folder that, one for receipts, one for gift cards and coupons, one for takeout menus, and you have them stored hanging on a really pretty wall organizer that's designed to hold files. Or you might have them in an inbox kind of setup with the trays, like the stack trays, or in a drawer. So you can get really creative, about how you want to handle that. Find a pretty bowl. If if one of the things you're going to keep are wallets and keys there, find a really pretty bowl that matches the decor in whatever room you have it in, and store it that way. Or get hooks and hang it on. Have a few hooks hanging on the wall. If you've got work badges, you can add those to that as well. So I will guarantee you that pretty much any category of thing that you've got that should go in your command center, you will find somebody on Google who has come up with a really pretty way of storing it. But as always, I recommend that be the last part. I keep, even though I always say, I don't want to buy any products until I have it figured out what I want to store. I'm still trying to figure out a way to use that the magnetic wall tiles that I showed you from the Container Store. So the tiles attached to your wall via either screws or command strips, and then they have magnetic doodads that stick on there. So trays and baskets and little cups that stick on there, and little shelves. They're just so cool. I keep trying to figure out, there's got to be some way I can use it, except I know I need to start with the stuff and then go to the product. But anyway, there's another idea. If your aesthetic is more kind of modern, so you've got plastics and acrylics and metallics, that kind of a system, and you want to go to the wall for your command center, that kind of system could be really cool in your space. Well, anyway, so those are some thoughts for how to manage, again, those bits and pieces of things that are really important and we don't want to lose track of. And because we don't want to lose track of them, we tend to leave them sitting where it's going to be obvious for us to see them, but it also then becomes a pile of stuff that we're trying not to lose track of. So using a command center in order to help corral that kind of stuff can be really a great solution. And again, if you're a creative type or you want to do something that's a little more fun from an organizational standpoint, it can be a really cool piece of art in your home, as well as fire alarm. My husband's cooking. So anyway, with that, I'm going to sign off, make sure my house is not actually on fire, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.